Hi guys, welcome to part two of the Q&A. So one of the questions I was asked was how is it that I'm still a Christian or believing in God even after everything has happened to me? And I just like to kind of give you guys I guess a story of how it actually happened. So like around the time my dad was ill, obviously I was going to church, I was praying about it, I even fasted about it. People even prayed with me as well. Even had people that came and prayed for my dad as well. And so for him to pass after all of that, it's just you can tell that I would definitely have a lot of questions. And I remember around that time as well, I was trying to get over my mom's death because that was something I was still dealing with. So then for that to happen whilst I'm still trying to get over my mom's death, and then my dad passes. Not only that, it's like every time I walk downstairs, I'm having to like look at him like all skinny, being all different, all that stuff there. And so on top of this, I'm still doing my best to go to church. Even some people were advising me not to go to church and saying, you know what, go and spend time with your dad as well. So I was definitely trying to balance it, but so even when he passed, that was just something that was very hard to kind of take. And then so I remember even praying like, you know what, God, at least just show me like he's in heaven. At least show me like all that time I was reading the Bible to him, all that time I was praying to him was not in vain. And still I didn't get anything. So my conclusion was, fam, this God thing is either a placebo, like just thought like maybe it's something that if you believe that something is going to help you and you keep going to it, that's what's happening. Or that or that I wasted my time, all those times I was going to church, all those times I was praying, I was literally feeling like, fam, I should have just spent time with my dad, because this God did not have my back at all. And just even obviously questions that now all the questions that you can think are just like kind of like coming into my head. And yeah, I just remember saying like, you know what, even if you are real, I don't care. Like even if you do exist, I wouldn't want to serve a God like that who would let all these things happen. And obviously with the reason why I'm coming out with this, because I know from personal experience, you have people that will come to you and kind of tell you the reasons why they think it happened. Let me say, for example, witchcraft is one of them. Didn't have enough faith, or you didn't pray enough. And it's like you hear it, but at the same time you feel like, bruv, when I'm hearing testimonies of people who have been where someone gave them a dream and then they prayed for that person and that person got well, or just like, yo, if I didn't have enough faith, I was in church every single day. You could have got people to pray with me, like, you get me? So your mind starts to now dot up a lot of things, and you're thinking, fam, if this God was there, all this stuff, you get me, could have been prevented. So yeah, you know me, I'm not a person that likes to sugarcoat anything. Like I'm just gonna tell you guys from my experience, Eddie, because I know majority of the time when you are going through it, this is what you think. And then what even makes it worse is now you're hearing other people's testimonies and you're just feeling like, fam, this God does he have favorites, or you get me? The question is, how did I get to where I am now? Okay. There's a scripture which says, nothing can separate you from the love of God. And I generally felt like, even though I believed God is a placebo for a time, and I said to myself, yo, I am not going to pray, I literally only lasted like a month or two. It was like something kept on calling me back, kept on calling me back, kept on calling me back. And even when in the end, when I just kind of said, you know what, I don't necessarily understand any of this. I have so many questions, but I'm still just gonna go to you. And that's what I would advise people. Like, don't necessarily think that don't wait for your answers. Don't wait for your questions to get answered. Then you go to God. Just go to Him with your questions. I said, you know what? I still have this. I'm feeling like this. You should have done this. You should have done this. You should have done that. But I'm still just gonna go to you. And one of the scriptures which kind of helped me is when the Apostle Paul was praying, and he prays, you know what, God, remove this thorn from me. And then obviously he says, God says to him, no, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. And obviously with that obviously the Apostle Paul getting an answer as to the reason why this thorn is not going to be removed from him, because his strength is made perfect in weakness. And I took that as, with the Apostle Paul, obviously he got an answer to why it was no, and just because I haven't necessarily got an answer to what may have happened with mine, whether it was a no, whether it was there was not enough faith, or whatever the reason may have been, I didn't get it, which I guess I had to come to terms with. But anyway, he's told that no, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. So I feel that sometimes when we get the answers we don't want from God, that sometimes there's a bigger purpose behind it. And that regardless if you got the answer or not, he's still God. He's still loving. And the example I have is the Hebrew boys, when they were thrown into the fire, they said, you can throw us into the fire and God will deliver us, but even if he doesn't, we're still gonna go into the fire. Which is, yeah, something that's hard for me to wrap my head around. Recently I listened to a preacher who was talking about how God actually never says no. Sometimes he just gives us he just doesn't answer our prayers the way, sometimes he just won't necessarily answer it the way that we want it to be answered, if that makes sense. Obviously there's sometimes where there's other reasons. I'm not saying that I know the reason or this and that. I'm just saying there could be a plethora of reasons. But within those reasons, God is still there, if that makes sense. And for me, the reason why I'm saying this is because obviously after I had kind of said, okay, God, I've got these questions. I do not necessarily feel like what you've done to me or what's gone on is going to grow my faith at all. If you were trying to make me have faith in you, this was probably the worst thing you could have done. Because how am I ever meant to trust you now? And yeah, I kid you not, bro. Like when you go to God with your questions, you'd be surprised what he can do with them. Because like now, even me doing these video things is literally been an example of God working through me. Just seeing testimonies. For example, having suicidal thoughts, and God delivering me from them. The porn addiction, praying for my family, and seeing all of them coming to God now. Which again is something that's, you get me, that's just even mad for me to wrap my head around, and I never thought that could have happened in the midst of all these things. What's another thing that's happened? And even just having dreams about people and them being so specific, like I can't even say them because I said I wouldn't tell anyone. And then just obviously like praying for them, just seeing the growth in myself, being able to do videos like this. I definitely would not have been able to do this, you get me, if I was by myself. So it's like, for me, obviously the questions, there's times where they will still come back into my head, like when I'm going home and I'm just going home to an empty house. I'm just going home by myself, and it's like, bro, this thing is getting tiring. And it's like me, one thing one thing I kind of learned is, okay, there's things that have happened that I don't necessarily understand, but then I've also seen God work so much in my life. So then for me to say he doesn't exist, or for me to say he's not there, would be a lie. Just because I don't necessarily understand these questions or these things that happen to me does not necessarily mean for me to go somewhere else or rebel. And sometimes God may not keep you from that fire, but he will join you. He will join you in that fire. That's another thing I learned So yeah, that's just to encourage anyone who may be going through doubts, who may be going through whatever they may be going through, that like you're sometimes when you don't understand why certain things have happened, I tell you now that behind that is so much more. Like behind that is so much blessed. Like fam, I'm still just getting into certain things. There's still more for me to do, you feel me? Like I've seen myself grow so much. I've touched people's lives who I never thought I would have touched. I've had people come up to me, talk to me about certain things, and I'm feeling like, rah, I didn't even know you looked at me in that light. So it's like behind that no, should I say, I don't really like saying that, but behind that no, there's so much more. And I feel like that's why the Bible tells us not to lean to our own understanding, but just to trust him. So just like how a child may not understand why their parents would do certain things. So it's like for me, I know like looking back on some of the advice my dad was giving me, I was like, fam, that advice made sense. um but obviously when you're younger, it's like, I don't care, I'm not listening. If that's what it's like with if that's what it's like with our parents, then how much more God who's infinite, how much more God who's outside of time, who some things we may not understand, or we may not get the answer for. um but to know that he's there, to still know that he's still your father, you feel me? So yeah, man, this was just, I don't know how long or short this is gonna be, but I hope you guys are blessed. I hope you guys keep safe in this quarantine time. And if any of you are going through anything, my DMs are always open. My Snapchat might be down there. I don't know. Do I have Twitter? Yeah, I do have Twitter, but I don't really use it like that. But yeah, just hit up my Insta DMs. We'll talk. I'm a very approachable person. But yeah, your faith doesn't even have to be a Christian. Anyone's welcome. Anyone's welcome. Can always talk, fam. It's an open platform. You feels me? Um, but yeah, man, I'm tired today, bro. Tired, bro.